Welcome to a Legendarium special about the Trung sisters, the women who freed Vietnam from China. In this episode, we will learn about the women who drove the Chinese from their home country, and though they ultimately failed to keep the Chinese out, they became legends in their time and for all time. Long before revolutionaries like Joan of Arc and Catherine of Aragon, two highborn Vietnamese sisters rallied their nation to fight against oppression. The Chinese first invaded modern-day Vietnam in 111 BC. They immediately installed local rulers to serve Chinese interests. The Trung sisters came into this Chinese-ruled world around the birth of Christ. Their father served as one such pro-Chinese official, though he did push back against his masters if he felt they went too far. The sisters studied literature and martial arts alongside their father. Southeast Asian society at the time gave women more freedom, especially in regards to education and property. People could inherit property, social position, and other rights through their mothers and their fathers, and women in Vietnam served as judges, soldiers, and even rulers. Trung Troc grew up to marry Phi Sac, an official from a neighboring district. After her father's death, Trung's husband, Phi Sac, inherited his position as chief minister of the Gao Chi district, along with his willingness to defy overbearing Chinese governors. Sadly, an especially harsh Chinese governor named To Dinh took office during this time. He raised taxes on salt and demanded bribes from local Vietnamese officials just to keep their jobs. Phi Sac made an official protest to his Chinese superior about the tax increases and corruption. For reasons unknown, the Chinese official broke all the rules and simply murdered Phi Sac without trial. The Chinese would have expected a young widow to go into seclusion and mourn her husband. Instead, after her husband's death, Trung Troc, alongside her sister Trung Nhi, began to gather landlords and working farmers alike to fight against Chinese rule. Local chieftains brought their own retainers until the Trung sisters' army numbered 80,000 men. To motivate the troops before battle, Trung Troc wrote and read long patriotic poems that called upon them to avenge their suffering homeland. One of her most famous quotes involved 4 vows Trung Troc swore to her followers. She said, "Foremost, I will avenge my country. Second, I will restore the Hung lineage. Third, I will avenge the death of my husband. Lastly, I vow that these goals will be accomplished." She also appointed 36 female generals to lead the national army, including the Trung sisters' elderly and widowed mother. The Trung sisters rode out on elephants in front of their own troops, who carried swords, axes, spears, and bows and arrows. The Trung sisters' army stormed 65 Chinese-ruled citadels and the governor's home. Fortunately for the Trung sisters, they waged war at a time when the Western Han dynasty of China collapsed, so few soldiers came from China. After driving out the Chinese, the army declared Trung Troc the queen of a newly independent Vietnam. The Trung sisters ruled 65 cities and towns and built a new capital at My Linh, associated with the primordial Hong Bong dynasty, which legend holds ruled Vietnam from 2800 to 250 BC. For 2 years, Trung Troc effectively ruled the region. As queen, she ended unfair tax policies imposed by the Chinese. She also tried to restore a simpler form of government in line with traditional Vietnamese values. Everything changed in 41 AD when Emperor Guangwu reunified China and sent his best general Ma Yuan south to overthrow the Trung sisters. For more than a year, the Chinese and Vietnamese fought for control of northern Vietnam. Tragically, the sister queens struggled to hold off Ma Yuan and began losing many of their aristocratic supporters, who feared that the Chinese would win, and they could only keep their lives and positions if they defected to the Chinese before they won. Ma Yuan executed thousands of the Trung sisters' supporters, and many Chinese soldiers remained in the area around Hanoi as garrisons. The sister queens suffered a final defeat in 43 AD. According to legend, the Trung sisters drowned themselves in a river, though the Chinese claimed they captured them. The end of the Trung sisters' lives became the beginning of their legend. Poets and writers created stories around their bravery, patriotism, and beauty. As one 15th century poem noted, the sisters fought against Chinese forces at a time when men failed to do so. One verse read, "All the male heroes bowed their heads in submission. Only the two sisters proudly stood up to avenge the country." The faithful built several temples and shrines honoring their memories throughout Vietnam. By the 11th century, the people came to believe that the long-dead sister queens brought rain, and in times of drought, people prayed to the Trung sisters to bring much-needed water. The story of the Trung sisters, who fought and eventually lost their lives to foreign oppression, also captured the Vietnamese imagination during French colonialism and the Vietnam War. It invited the Vietnamese to imagine a land ruled by its own people and free from foreign interference. Today, the Trung sisters are celebrated each year in Vietnam on the anniversary of their deaths. Often depicted riding on elephants into battle, they have been commemorated on postage stamps, in statues, and in portraits as martyrs of Vietnamese resistance. That wraps things up for this episode of the Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.